Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Trade of Luck podcast here on the Benzinga Television Network. I'm your host, Shad Dales. We've got unbelievable stories here tonight, and we want to bring you all the latest breaking news. A professional look here on today's podcast to give you top-notch knowledge on what you should expect next in the cannabis, psychedelic, crypto, and AI industries. So now, let's welcome in our co-hosts. And in the media industry, we call this a swoop. Let's bring in both Anthony Varrell and Benjamin A. Smith. Gentlemen,
how's it going?
Happy Monday. What do you think of the approach so far?
I think you're real Ron Burgundy.
You like that?
Yeah.
All right. Let's begin with the partnership in the cannabis industry that was announced. The Cannabis Company Holdings with cannabis brand Old Pal, a company brand currently sitting in the top 10% brand awareness category in the industry. Anthony, tell us more on what this announcement potentially is going to do for both companies.
Yeah, so I like to see it. Old Pal is one of the stronger brands in the States. They started out in California. I actually know the couple of the guys from college that I went to school with. So they're Florida boys that moved out to California, started a brand, and the brand's done well. It's resonated very well on the West Coast, and they're expanding into Virginia and Maryland with the Cannabist, with their vape line, their pre-roll line, and then their Polito line, which is actually a tray, rolling papers, and lower grade but affordable cannabis to sit there and just roll your joints in a full in a full kit. I love to see it. I like where Nick and the team's at. They're working with one of the most forward-thinking brands in the space, bringing them to the East Coast into that fortified Northeast corridor that the Cannabist has, and I expect to see them in other markets here shortly.
All right. Dave Green, hello. He says, I love the suits. I like the name. Dave Green. Gotta love the name Green and cannabis, right, Ben?
Yeah, green and cannabis are synonymous with each other, right? So, yeah, I like it.
Ben, on to you. Let's now switch to the markets where MSOs broke out of its 690 resistance. Not a massive move, but nevertheless a move in the right direction. Do you think this move is coming because many retail investors think the DEA announcement is imminent?
That is a good question because we always get retweeted or anything like this. Whenever there's a big move, everybody always jumps the gun and says, oh, announcement's imminent or a bunch of options are being purchased. So that must be it. Politicians are getting in. All these conspiracy theories come online. And while that may be the case, I can't prove, my theory completely. I think it has more to do with just the market and just with MSOs following something like, IWM, which is the Russell 2000 small cap index. And that is an index, like a weighted average market capitalization of each company is about 2.75 billion. The median market cap is approximately 950 million in that index. And that's what cannabis is right now. That's what most of the tier ones or tier twos are around that $1 billion range on the tier one side. A couple of them are a little bit higher, but I think it's just basically following that index in an environment where there's a lack of news flow. So in that
rain on that parade, baby.
It defaults
rain on that parade.
Yeah. I don't mean to rain on the parade. I just mean to give
no
market information as I see it, and it's actually this is not even an original idea. A lot of this comes from Dan the Chartman, who I follow, who I listen to, and I think he's absolutely right. In the absence of news flow, these ETFs or some market segments can follow some indexes that are more appropriate to the companies of their market cap. And I think that's what's happening here. No, there wasn't any headlines today, big headlines, but IWM broke out. And I think that was enough to move MSOs over the line.
Anthony, do you see things in a different light?
No, actually. And I thoroughly enjoy Ben's perspective that he brings, because up until the call we had earlier today with our touch base, I wasn't thinking about the Russell 2000 breaking out and how those market internals can move MSOS and the underlying assets. So, I mean, Ben's approach makes complete sense. I don't think there's an announcement coming here. There is no HHS or DEA leaked document. Like, we caught a bid. I mean, we caught a bid on a day when small caps are rallying.
Healthy
it looks
bid.
Great. My screen's looking pretty healthy across the board. There's a lot of double-digit gainers. There's a lot of tier one cannabis names that are up between 5 and 9%. I will take that any day of the week, whether there's an announcement or not. Now let's see what happens tomorrow and see if we can continue this moving forward.
So what's the big takeaway here, gentlemen?
Don't get excited. Don't get excited. This is good to see, but it is probably just a function of just market internals and just things moving in lockstep with each other.
Benjamin A. Smith, do you agree?
I do. I would say sometimes the market moves on news flow, and sometimes the market moves on technicals. Some like each day is different. Some days it will move on based on a different dynamic. I think today's dynamic is Russell 2000 breaking out because there wasn't any sort of news flow that really resonated. In fact, and we'll touch on it in a sec. Germany actually delayed their vote, and that's probably the biggest thing in the industry right now outside of HHS. They delayed their vote until next year. So we'll get into that in a sec.
Mohammed, you're absolutely correct. We are wearing pajamas and shorts, waist down, but I'm glad that you made that comment. That's for sure. All right, gentlemen, this is the Into the Wire section of the Trade of Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Thanks for checking in as we bring you all the latest information, the headlines in cannabis and psychedelics. So let's move on to headline number 3, the Trade of Black podcast here on the Benzinga Television Network, and now move to the Big Apple. And who doesn't love a Big Apple, right, Ben? And the great state of New York, where brand guidelines are shaking up, Anthony. So let's break this down. What does this mean that we could hear later this week?
So in New York fashion, they're obviously making things a little more convoluted. They're trying to have vision over everything in the industry. As it is right now, if you're a brand and you want to enter the New York market, up until this week, you could simply do a white label processing agreement or a royalty agreement or licensing agreement with one of the current New York operators. Simple, clean. It's just you, your brand, your IP, making an agreement with one of the licensed operators, and you're good. Now, what New York is actually implementing is a 3-tiered processing license process that's going to be implemented here, I'm pretty sure, after this week. So tier 1, you can process, manufacture, do whatever within the state, unencumbered. That's a full access license, we'll call it. Tier 2, you can, from my understanding, you can manufacture to a degree. Oh, no, from a tier 2 license, the caveat is you can't extract. So you can create finished products. You can create finished products for any of these white labeling or licensees that want to come in, but you cannot extract down the product. So you actually have to buy your extracts and your concentrates in offtake agreements from various other market participants. Level 3, which they're calling the branding license, is the lowest tier. It's a simple license. From my understanding, it's $1,000 up front. It's a $2,000 fee once it's granted. 50% of that fee is discounted for social equity applicants. And then being granted that license, you now can operate within a branding partnership framework within the state of New York. So they want to do this for increased visibility as to who their market participants are. Obviously, check up on them and clip some fees in the meantime. To my knowledge today, actually, after reading the report, which it was an interview that was published by Deborah Borchardt in the Green Market Report, there are actually 200 brands right now in the New York market. There's probably going to be a lot more entering here shortly as we're seeing the retail ban lifted. You're going to start to see the wheels start to grease of the New York market, and more things are going to come online. So while on a headline, I was like, oh, great, they're just putting more regulation in. They're going to make it more complicated. It really isn't more complicated. They're kind of just streamlining their licensing as it relates to processing with the needs of the actual license holder. So it's not, go ahead.
Is it fair to say that New York indeed is making a step in the right direction of cleaning up the mess that they've created?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a step in the right direction or the wrong direction. It's just they're putting more licensing and more oversight into the industry, which doesn't surprise me, all things considered.
All right. So companies that are based in New York don't really stem to benefit from the announcement later this week. It's business.
No, if anything, and they've known for some time now, they're going to have to go through the licensing process and redo the agreements that they currently have with the operators in the state.
More paperwork for a minute.
Quick sidebar here, Anthony. In your opinion, is the New York market ever going to be like a liberalized adult use market, like something you would see in, Illinois, for example?
Yes, it will be. When? TBD. New York's got so much turmoil that Pablo didn't even include it in his adult use metrics for companies' valuations.
I know
that should tell you something. They're going to make sure the attorneys get paid first. Bob is very correct in the comments.
Very good point, Bob.
They're going to make sure that probably the workers are unionized. They're going to make sure that everybody is getting everyone that gets their hand, or everyone that puts their hand out that expects a piece is probably going to get a piece in the New York market. That being said, yeah, it's going to be one of the biggest markets in the world probably once they figure shit out.
New York is feeding the attorneys first. Wonder what they're feeding them. If you had to guess, what would it be, Ben?
Donuts.
Yeah. Money greases all the wheels. A lot of connected people, social justice people or whatnot. Like Anthony said, money is, everybody's going to get greased. It has to get greased. Big organization. Once that happens, I think we'll move forward.
I love my money cooked well done. Don't you, gentlemen?
Absolutely.
You don't like that. All right. Let's now switch to our next headline and to the wire here at the TDR Traded Black podcast on the Benzinga Television Network. Our German correspondent, Dieter Hamburger, otherwise known as the Warrior of the People, could not join us today, but there is news where a final vote to legalize marijuana has been called off. Ben, Oktoberfest ended 5 weeks ago, so why is there yet another delay?
I think it's a little unclear right now. I think they need to maybe have a little bit more discussions to finalize things. It's through the final stages of negotiations and buttoning things up before it goes to that vote. And obviously they need a little bit more time. So the good news is that doesn't mean that even if the vote takes place, say in January, at the end of January sometime, we're still on track for a possible implementation in April of next year. So as of right now, it doesn't look like implementation could be affected, but the vote which was supposed to come out this week is apparently not going to take place this week, and it's going to take place next month. And of course, we've already seen delays. The vote originally was supposed to take place in summer of this year. So just like anything else, it doesn't matter whether you're in Germany or the US or Canada, there always seems to be delays in this industry. It's sort of part and parcel with the way the industry runs. And hopefully we'll have some better news by the end of next January.
So let's not freak out, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to freak out.
Yeah.
It's not a situation where there's a major dissension of opinion or votes or expected votes and everything's blown up. It's just probably just dealing with the last stages of finalization to get all parties agreed upon and then, have enough votes to get through.
Mm-hmm. Interesting comment from Mohammed Shaheen. He actually thinks the delay is good. That means they're working it out. They want to make sure that if the bill is brought up, that it will pass. Very good take, I would say.
I can't.
Yeah, you don't want to rush it through. You'd rather not rush it through and have it passed and spend an extra month than just a month or 6 weeks, than rush things through, not have it pass, and then you have to, it's a longer process.
Yes, indeed. All right, gentlemen, that concludes our opening segment Into the Wire, highlighting the biggest headlines in cannabis and psychedelics. I'm your host, Shad Dales, with Benjamin A. Smith and Anthony Varrell, the TDR Traded Black podcast here on the Benzinga Television Network. Let's now move to segment number 2, which is our Daily Movers. And we begin Canopy Growth. Oh, baby, Canopy Growth, Anthony Varrell. If you own this stock today, you made some money. Some good money.
Yeah, I mean, Canopy's moving again, 61 million shares. It's up 22% on the day. This is the second double-digit trading day in a row for Canopy. If there was some sort of announcement or if there is some sort of positive sentiment that's shifting, I'm going to guess that it's being flashed in Tilray and Canopy moving to the upside with volume. Tilray was also up 8.5% today on 24 million shares, roughly. These trade as a proxy to momentum in the U.S. cannabis space.
Indeed.
And I will continue to double down on that statement. Fund managers, money managers, semi-institutional capital, they're comfortable with buying these names and they can actually get access to these names. Not saying that that I agree with purchasing these as a proxy to the to the U.S., but the strong momentum in MSOs today, the strong momentum in the underlying assets today, and the movement in Canopy and Tilray, it's positive. It's positive. People are buying, obviously, and Canopy's moved significantly since I started talking about the name 2 or 3 weeks ago.
You knew you were going to get this question from John Verville. How are them calls looking?
I already answered that. I mean, I sold them a week ago and tried to get fancy going into the holidays. So no, I looked back on the sale today. I netted like 40% on the trade. I left another 50% on the table as per the value of the call options as of today going into the close.
Very important to tell our viewers as well. All views on the Trade to Black podcast and the guests on this podcast are purely opinion. You should not treat any opinions expressed by us or our guests as investment advice, and the views on this podcast are solely intended to be informational and are not investment advice. Ben, what'd you think of the day? Wow, Canopy, right?
Yeah, Canopy Growth. I mean, all the MSOs, you had a few of them that were up close to 20% on the day. Some of the tier twos moved the most, tier threes. Things settled a little bit, but volume picked up on MSOs. So it was a very good day. Of course, I believe the move was mainly based on the index. It's following IWM right now. However, now you can sort of look back and perhaps project that 690 area might be a floor, or hopefully it will be. So if the market holds up, if the broad market holds up, it might be sort of today's signal might be a way to average in to that, on pullbacks. It might be that, now you have that sort of go ahead to do that. Whereas before you didn't know if it would break 690 or pull back. Now it definitively did. We finished at about 731. Now where it could be in a buy the pullback dynamic. So that's what I may be looking to do. It's just, whatever individual stocks you want to do, go based on your own thesis.
This is the beginning of December, and many people have said, we look at this as tax loss selling season. You answered that question last week, Ben, and said no. MSOs, 52 weeks, it's been pretty much flat, and it's pretty much backing up what you said in the first couple of days here in December.
Yeah, not only that, we're up year to date on MSOs. Of course, some individual component stocks are below par, and some of select ones have been hit hard, and they could be tax loss selling candidates. But MSOs, as of right now, is up year to date. So there's going to be very little selling in the component stocks and definitely not the ETF at these levels.
Anthony, you wanted to add something? Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say the tier one MSOs. I mean, were definitely a positive sign today. I mean, you have Curaleaf, GTI, TrueLeaf. They're up on volume. What I look at more than the price action in the stock is the volume. And I mean, MSO's volume the past 2 weeks has been laughable. The MSOs, the underlying assets, has been laughable at best. These were pretty respectable volumes, all things considered, with the implied price action. So, I mean, like I said, let's see what we get continuing this for the rest of the week. I'm going to be very curious to see what Canopy's trading at pre-market tomorrow, and then what the rest of these assets are doing going into the close tomorrow. If there's continued strength, it's going to be very positive. Like I said, though, I'm just going to watch.
Yes.
I think it also buys time too, right? Like, I mean, now that we had a technical break, if indeed it was mainly technical, then now we're over that level of 690 that had been hindering price action. And now we're, every day we're above that. We're now closer to whatever HHS decision there is. So you want to see that positive break, even if it's not the move. It at least buys time, and days will pass. Hopefully we don't break under 690, and then we're gonna buy the dip dynamic, and hopefully people can capitalize, and we do get that big news from HHS sometime within now and the first the end of January, call it.
Hello. So, I guess we gotta answer this. I've gotten hit on Twitter a couple times, and we got two other questions. Why was TerraSend down today?
Hello, Fish.
To be honest, I don't know. Ben doesn't know. Shad doesn't know. There happen to be more sellers than buyers in the market. It's down 1% relative to its peers. I don't think that's any cause for concern. That's just my opinion. But I mean, TerraSend, from a asset perspective, they're doing well in all of their markets as per their last earnings season. You can extrapolate the revenue growth just from their other adult use markets and their other assets coming online. TerraSend it's more richly valued than its peers on a multiple basis.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying it's undervalued, not saying it's overvalued, but if you were to do the back of the napkin math just on a multiple basis on like top line revenue, TerraSend is richer than its peers. I don't understand why it's down today. I don't think it's cause for concern. Like I said, it's only down 1%. It is one of my holdings. That and Consortium are my top two cannabis holdings as it is right now. I'm staying the course and fully confident in Ziad and Jason Wild, especially after seeing them at MJ Biz. And I mean, I'll continue to watch the name and we'll cover the movements as it shakes out during the week.
Yes.
Now, very quickly to answer that question, from my perspective, if we go with the technical break theory on IWM, perhaps this was more under the influence of TSX small cap. So perhaps it was the influence of another index, not because it's a TSX stock. So I don't know. I'd have to see how much
That's a good point.
Down, but it could be under the influence of another, confluence of factors, if you want to call it.
Skip Swellman, who I would assume is a very swell man, outlines that Terrason's volume today was a little over 1 million. So there you go.
I mean, that's good. Dollar weighted, like what, 1.8 million around there. Dollar weighted trading volume, which is pretty good. Yeah, John, we do follow MJUS, CNBS, YOLO. We follow all the ETFs. Don't cover them in the detail that we cover MSOS, obviously, because we are covering most of the underlying assets.
I also think it's important to share
MSOS.
to our audience that Terrason is a client of ours. And for anyone thinking about we only talk about our clients, that is not right. This is why we wanted to make this professional today. We talk about a lot of companies that aren't our clients. But if there's Tilray in Germany, we think Tilray's got a great opportunity in Germany. Curaleaf, Trueleaf, GTI, Green Thumb, all great companies that have a bright future. But making it very clear, we do not talk about clients solely on this show. We want to give you information, whether it's good or bad, that pertains to the industry. Agreed, gentlemen?
Yeah, and I mean it's also about perspective. Like, unfortunately, GTI, they don't do anything but make money. Like GTI are not a news story that's constantly updating. Yeah, we talk about GTI, but it's a tier 1 blue chip. Like, you should know about GTI. If like Tilray gets left out of Germany, it's not a dog on Tilray. I've literally sat here and said that Irwin probably has the best business plan going. He might just be 10 years too early. So, I mean, we talk about Tilray, we talk about SNDL, we talk a hell of a lot about Canopy. Just because we're omitting names, it doesn't mean that we have a bias against any of them at all. I mean, when we talk about a topic, we can't necessarily go drill down into every single company that's involved in those topics.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that was some of the commentary.
Yeah.
And we also tend to know more about these people, about certain clients, because we talk to them more regularly. We're exposed to the information more, so we happen to know a little bit more about the story. Of course, we know about GTIs and all the tier 1s, but sometimes we know a little bit more, and we go a little bit more in depth because we have relationships with certain companies.
Yeah. And going out of character, I will say that based on everything that you guys have outlined, the effort is there. We do reach out to all these companies. And the last thing we want to do is share information where we're speculating. We want it to be accurate. And there's no better way of getting accurate information by speaking to the horse's mouth and speaking directly to the company.
That being said, if there are companies that are flying under the radar, or there are companies that you want our opinion or to cover, by all means, hit me up on Twitter, comment on the video. I'd rather be covering things that are currently outside of my universe, because I do have certain names that I look at every day, day in and day out, and I'm not constantly searching for new names right now. Like, for instance, Grown Rogue is one that we'll be covering here in the next couple of weeks, as we've got some interest from some DMs on Twitter. And we're probably going to line the CEO up to get an in-depth look as per what they're doing, which is one of the lesser known names in the space. But we are looking for quality, and we're never going to just talk about a name to talk about them. I don't believe in that. I don't think the guys believe in that, and that's just not what we're here to do.
John Verville, I don't think any one of you is accusing of favoritism. Y'all rock. Appreciate the feedback. But yeah, I think that's great that we clarified that, so we can move onwards now. That concludes our daily movers section. Canopy, Air, and GTI, Tilray, Cureleaf, Organigram, all moving based on our daily movers today. Gents, I think this is the first time I've wore a suit since COVID. How about you guys?
I've worn a suit a couple times, a couple weddings. I enjoy wearing a suit. I've got a closet full of them that I just don't wear anymore.
I got about
which
50 of
kinda
these, and I
bothers
used to
me.
work down on Bay Street, and wow.
Yeah, we had somebody just tweet. We had someone just tweet. They got me in a suit and tie. They've now seen everything, which is it's pretty funny.
It's well worth it. Ben, what are you wearing, buddy? Look at that jacket. That's sharp.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an old-fashioned, old-school jacket, but yeah, I like it. And I like Anthony. I like getting into suits from time to time. We have client meetings, so I've worn a suit, here and there since COVID. But the frequency has definitely gone down with COVID, work from home, and things like that.
Shirt and tie downtown Toronto back in the days when you're going to the office as a day trader.
I used to wear a shirt and tie to cannabis conferences.
Did you really?
I used to wear a suit and tie to cannabis conferences.
So you
100%.
stuck out like a sore thumb then, because you don't.
Not really, because back in the day, like the Canaccord events, the GMP events, like the 8 Capital stuff, Benzinga. I mean, there were. I mean, I was an outlier. Now I just wear a hoodie and pants, and I'm good. But yeah, I used to wear a suit and tie to the cannabis conferences.
Yeah. Times have changed, that's for sure. Also want to let our audience know that tomorrow on our YouTube channel, we are posting our latest.
Mencken said it. Mencken said the comment. So I will give attribution to the person that tweeted that I am in a suit and tie. I'm like going off screens in real time right now.
I wanted to mention, I just actually wrapped up an interview before our Traded Black podcast with Peyton Nyquist from Numinous Wellness. So we're going to be posting that tomorrow morning, their latest earnings that was announced last week. So we got up to speed and up to date with their latest earnings and what we can expect moving forward. That's going to be released tomorrow. So I think a lot of you have reached out and were wondering when that next podcast is going to be. So we touched on earnings. We also touched on MAPS, what's going on with them, or their Series A financing, and when we could potentially see a new drug application finally submitted. But very, very interesting podcast, to say the least. Gentlemen, you look sharp. I feel sharp.
I feel like going somewhere.
I do
Anthony,
too.
are you in Toronto? You're not in town, are you?
I'm not, unfortunately. I'm in Miami for Art Basel. I got a bunch of my friends from Toronto actually coming in this weekend. Mr. Brody and Spencer and a bunch of other guys. So
Anthony, let me see that wrap
up. Good weekend.
Let me see that wrap up with the paper. All right, gents, hey, everyone. Thanks for watching. And if you want to learn more about the emerging industries that we cover, then leave a comment below and let us know who you want us to interview, the questions you want asked, and the information that you want to learn. We want to hear from you. As usual, click on that bell for all notifications to get the latest information. Share this video with your network, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because we would not be here without you. Thanks.